Well, hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning into another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. This is episode number 100, which we are incredibly proud of. I am your host, Brian Walker, and my co-host, as usual, is Kim. And today we have four very special guests. But first, before I introduce them, I would like to thank our sponsors, RepairPal, for providing this episode. RepairPal is the key that unlocks new business for your auto repair shop. Learn more at repairpal.com/shops. Well, hi, everyone. How are y'all doing today?
Great.
Good.
Good.
So let me introduce everyone, just kind of starting at the top and going around. We've got Tony Mercury from AutoShop Solutions. We have Carrie-Lynn Rodenberg from Turnkey Marketing. We have Tracy from Kukui. And we have Kelsey Outram from Lift Auto Repair Marketing. And when we were thinking about this episode, like I said, we wanted to do something special for number 100. And we know we're not the only marketers in this industry, and you might get a little bit tired of hearing our voices and want to hear from some of the other marketers in the industry. So we're having kind of a meeting of the minds today, and we're going to talk about the future of marketing and all kinds of things as we go through today.
Is this like the first time a bunch of marketers got together in this industry on one? Have y'all done anything else like this before?
Kim, sounds like you're asking a joke. Like a bunch of marketers in the auto repair industry walk to a room, walk into a bar.
We could say walk into a bar, but they'd be like, "That's any trade show ever."
Yeah, that was STX, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I don't know. At Turnkey Marketing, we work with a lot of you guys, so we spend a lot of time with most of you. So
yeah, but I was thinking like a big group of us together like this, because I know I've done different things like one-on-one, but it's just really exciting for me to have all of us together.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would be surprised to see that even though we're competitors, we're all friends, right? Like I was texting with Connor the other day. I sat with Kim and Brian at STX for dinner.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Honestly, it's one of the things that I really wanted to come out in this episode, because we, from an industry perspective, if you listen to the podcasts, they're very often talking about how you shouldn't look at the shop down the street from you as competition, but rather as colleagues, and that's something that I wanted to show everyone here, is that like we are all. We're all friends. We hang out together at the conferences. If there's an issue that we're having with marketing, we can call up the other one and say, "Hey, what are y'all seeing?" To like not just talk about it, but actually be about it. To do that thing. So we're incredibly excited to have all of y'all here together on this podcast today.
For sure. Even though there's things that we do differently or our approach might be different, the bottom line is the one thread that pulls us all together is that we care about shop owners, we want them to be successful, and that we really are trying to do the same thing, and that is fill bays and help these shop owners fulfill their dreams and that of their team. So really, truly, from me and Brian, of course, I really am glad that y'all are here today.
Well, let's dig in a little bit, and I'm gonna go to who I think would be the person with the most established or the oldest, marketing company here, which would be Tony with AutoShop Solutions, I believe, right? I mean, y'all have been around for
2008.
Yeah,
2008. Yeah.
So a long time. And the question that I have for you is, what do you think is the most significant change in marketing for in the automotive industry over the last decade?
Yeah, and I'll tell this through a story. So I started with AutoShop Solutions in 2015, and it was just the way we're offering our packages, that it was really website focused, and then you added on your services. And at the end of 2017, we sat down and looked at all of our internal data points of who was doing what from our client base, who's getting the most phone calls, who had the best rankings on SEO, who had the best ad performance. And really, to no surprise to us, it was the clients who were doing everything at the same time. And we identified that we have to offer the shops everything at the same time in order for them to be successful. They can't pick and choose their services because they all work so well together now. Where if you go back 10, 15 years ago, it was definitely way more siloed than it used to be. And it's just the complexity for a shop owner to try to manage this themselves is you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot. As we're out teaching, we see the glazed over look in people's eyes when when they're talking about marketing and don't really understand what it is that they should be doing and shouldn't be doing.
And even just looking at the buying journey, someone could start on Google Maps, they start on Google, they start on Facebook, and where they start and where they end is almost always different, right? So just making sure that shop owner identifies, hey, I have to be everywhere at the same time because I don't know where that click and call is going to come from.
And Carrie-Lynn, you, in your business, y'all are a little bit different in that you tend to work with all of the different marketing companies that are out there. And, that being the case, what is a common mistake that you see auto repair shop owners making in their marketing, and how can they avoid that?
Yeah. Like you said, like we basically act like a director of marketing. So we work with all the different like marketing companies, whether it's, you guys with websites and Google ads and SEO or postcards and, everything in between, or CRMs. And I think that the biggest mistake that I see is people kind of missing what Tony just talked about, is just marketing in silos and kind of putting all their eggs into one basket or two baskets, and not realizing that you really need kind of like a web of marketing, not just marketing on the web, but a web of marketing where you're really staying in front of people over and over and over and over and making sure it's all working together. So I'd say that. And then I would say that the second mistake that I often see is putting the weight of marketing on a shop manager, because a shop manager is trying so hard to carry the weight of the shop and hold everything together. But I think that we as business owners, we're like, oh, this is something that I'm not good at. I'm going to give it to someone else. And then it compiles and compiles and compiles and compiles. And you have too many jobs on one person. And we almost think of others as like magical fairies, where it's like, I could never do all that. But if I hire someone else and give them all these different things, they're probably going to be good at all these different kind of things that have nothing to do with each other. So that's a huge issue that I see, is that shop managers sign on to run the shop, and they're really good at that. And they're trying to lead the shop if a shop owner wants to have more freedom of time and stuff. But marketing tends to be the thing that gets kind of pushed to the bottom for a shop manager, because it's not comfortable and there's just so many more fires and things in front of them on the day to day. And so it kind of gets left behind and then looked at in retrospect when things are slow.
Yeah, I bet every one of us here has that story of how we started, and the shop owner themselves were our primary contact. And the next thing you know, we get like pawned off on a service advisor or a shop manager or something like that. And it almost never works when that happens. So,
or they leave and then nobody is in contact. And it's like, oh boy, that's when it starts to really get scary, right?
Or the other one we see sometimes is they're not communicating back to the owner. So then there's a big break in information.
Yeah, we had one recently actually where we started out where we were communicating with the owner, and he moved us to working with his service advisor. But one of the problems that we were having was the service advisor was so terrible on the phone that he was just taking, all of the work that we did kind of got thrown in the garbage by his poor phone skills. But then we couldn't talk to him about it. He didn't want to, he didn't want to hear about that.
Yeah, right.
And we no longer had a relationship with the shop owner. He had, completely pawned the service advisor off on us. So that was just a bad deal.
Brian, I was actually talking
anytime we have that uncomfortable on the phone conversation is tough. Anyway, we slice it.
Brian, I was talking to one of your team members at STX, and the biggest thing to paint is, as marketing, we generate leads for the service advisors. And quite often I'll go back and listen to phone calls, especially when they escalate up to me of like, hey, it's not working, right? We've all experienced this. And you go back and listen to those phone calls and you're like, no, it's working. It's your front counter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us though, and I'm sure y'all as well, when we do have that conversation, because it is a conversation that, it's not fun. Nobody really wants to have that. But when they're paying you what they're paying you, and the handoff from marketing to sales is failing, it's going to come back on you every time. They're going to point to that. And when we're recording those calls, we explain to them up front in the beginning, here's why we're listening to the calls. We want to make sure that we're sending quality leads. But sometimes it's so bad you can't help but recognize what's happening. And in the end, Brian just had this conversation yesterday with someone who had no idea. Like the owner had no idea and was very grateful. Thank you for pointing this out. And it's a win-win all the way around when you're just honest and upfront and have that hard conversation to say, hey, you probably need to know this. And it's just the right thing to do, right? So
Yeah.
We would all
And I
want
think
that,
it's helped
right?
if you own those bad calls too. Like, hey, this was a bad call. Here's what I'm doing to fix it.
Absolutely.
But here's a bad call on your side. So the good shop owners understand the two differences.
Yeah. So Kelsey, what role do you see AI and automation playing in the future of marketing for auto repair shops?
I mean, obviously, ChatGPT is still prevalent right now, and there's so much going around with it. And so, I mean, if someone that's listening hasn't used it yet, I recommend at least typing it in, using it, and leveraging it. It's a very, very cool tool to be able to leverage. I think in terms of within marketing itself and how, like, for example, how as a marketing company, how we leverage it. So in terms of it allows a very scalable use of creation of content, but then also like there has to be this careful balance of just like some people get the tendency of I can just copy and paste this maybe and throw it in there, and so I would make it very real and as useful content as possible. Because I mean, within Google, for example, within like they had an update like last year, where they edited their guidelines in terms of, they used to like clearly say that AI content was not allowed. And they took that out, and they just turned it into useful content. And so now it comes like, oh, people are like, let's just copy and paste AI content all over the place because we think it's useful. And then obviously then Google keeps making all their big updates in terms of kind of around AI and how they're determining if it's useful or not. And so yeah, it's just that careful balance, but I think it definitely needs to be used, because if you're not using it, then you're definitely going to fall behind in terms of just like this wave of things are happening.
Yeah, I think one of the huge misconceptions about AI generated content is the ease of it, or I guess the lack of thought that might go into using it for creating content. And I kind of equate it to the idea that consumers have about, when your car has a check engine light on, that you just hook it up to the machine and it tells you what's wrong. And with AI, it can be an amazing tool, but it is absolutely garbage in, garbage out. And the person who knows how to use it properly and does it the right way can produce content that is absolutely amazing, that really gets to the heart of who that auto repair shop and the people in it are.
Well, that's a great point, Brian, is the narrower the focus is what we've seen, the better the results are. We just released our own AI tool that we've been working on for almost a year. And all it does is respond to reviews. And we were actually really surprised because it's such a narrow data set that it's used for. We let this thing run live and it's been brilliant. But then you go out to try to just generate something easy on ChatGPT, and then it's so broad. It's, what we've seen is the kind of narrower the scope that you can provide for these AI tools, generally the better the results are going to be, because you're doing the steps to train that machine learning tool, right? It's really just a computer responding to inputs. So the more input we can get it, the better at the end of the day that response will be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're always saying garbage in, garbage out. The more you put in, the better the output is going to be. And, thankfully, people are finally, I think, getting that human element is left out, the tone, the voice, the personality, the humor. We have some shop owners who love just being silly and joking around, and that's how they are in their shop. But then there are some who are like, nope, I want to keep it clean and professional and within the lines. And so no matter what that tone or personality is, you can get that, but you have to adjust and edit and put the personalized touch on the output that you get from Chat GPT. So I love hearing that we're all in agreement on how to utilize that piece for sure.
I think
I
it's
think
the
it's pretty.
best tool to clean up writer's block.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just let it do its first pass, and just like you said, Kim, go back and make it your own after that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I think the real power in AI in marketing is also going to be in finding our target audience. So AI is going to really help us like narrow in and deliver messages completely like custom to different people. So different messages, especially obviously like your different social media and online and Google ads. The more, I think AI is going to evolve to kind of show ads with less content input from us, and it will kind of like figure out and show ads to people who would be the most interested in it. So I think there's going to be in the future, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for us to capture people right where they are that really need auto repair, based on different things that AI is going to kind of compile together.
So, while we're talking about AI, I mean, Connor, you are, with Kukui, which, I mean, your company has brought a completely different level of technology to marketing, when in the automotive industry, and specifically the CRM. But like looking ahead, what emerging technologies or strategies do you believe will become crucial for auto repair shops over the next few years?
So, I think we are starting to see the beginning signs of a shift away from, web-based dominance and SEO being the king. It's just starting. I mean, that is still the king when it comes to search results, but things like online scheduling right through the Google business profile, right? Like it's sidestepping the whole website from a user experience. Obviously, we need to have SEO there to provide the search result that we need. But from a user experience, we're seeing a lot of direct to consumer. So it's sidestepping that, where it's all of the steps and the processes that we typically have had, driving traffic to the website or getting emails opened are being sidestepped. We're seeing some hints with that with, Google. Google needs to monetize everything it can, right? So now you can advertise in your Google map, which previously you couldn't do, right? So Google's trying to monetize that and pull that away from us web developers, and so anything that's going to be, I think, more direct to consumer, where I think CRM is going to have a big part in that, right? Is that direct messaging. It cuts that web step out of that, and that's been a big part of that evolution. It used to be that that website was kind of that home base for everything. Now it's kind of the home base for SEO, but the consumers are telling us that they want to just be able to see and click and look at your schedule, kind of that open table experience, right? So we're seeing that shift, the popularity in live scheduling. Obviously, it's been a big thing that's grown in this last year. So that evolution, I think we're starting to see it slowly move away from website. How that's going to play into the SEO gamble, we're not sure yet, but it'll be interesting, and then we throw AI into that mix where we see, things going direct to consumer. We're seeing AI affecting content generation and how that content is read. And, these tools are really catching up. I mean, a year ago, we were like, you can't even think about using this kind of stuff on your website. Now it's kind of like, well, all right, if I put some edits to it, if we don't think in a year from now, it's going to be like, well, we probably are going to be okay. So we are going to see some big sea changes. But I think the direct to consumer and, kind of sidestepping the website is going to be the biggest shift we're going to see in short time.
Yeah, it has amazed me to see just how much Google has worked to keep people on their own properties. And it makes sense, it's like alluded to with them selling advertising. They don't make money once someone is off of their site and on your website. So, we were talking about that in an SEO class at STX about how the SEO that you do can get your featured snippets and all of these things, to show up on Google. And no, it doesn't drive traffic to your website, but it does drive people to your business overall. So it is very much a shift in thinking. And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and that ties right into that omni-channel approach, right? That over the years, we've just watched the interactions from calls from the website and then versus calls against Google Business Profile. Just it keeps changing every year. And I'm sure you guys are seeing that too.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious in terms of, so obviously, I don't know if any of you, I don't have those Apple goggle thingies that are coming out and whatnot, but I feel like, way down the road, I feel like augmented reality might be involved in marketing somehow, some way. Obviously, again, it's very, very new, and auto repair shops, like the service is still it has to be in person, obviously, to fix a car. You cannot virtually fix a car. I guess I shouldn't say that too soon, but in terms of just down the road, who knows, in terms of maybe even just giving a virtual walkthrough of the shop, in terms of, obviously people do video now and you can do that, but in terms of how AR or VR might work and kind of feeling like you're actually in there and what that looks like, who knows? It was just a thought that popped up as we've been talking, and I wanted to throw out there and see if anyone else had any other thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that's something that we'll definitely see, especially on the repair side. I can absolutely see, the goggles and all of that being used during the repair process, while you have someone else on the other end of the internet somewhere who is a specialist in a particular type of car or a particular type of diagnosis, and then you have a technician who is 2,000 miles away in a shop, and the person on the other end can see everything that they see and is directing them, through the diagnostic process or through the repair process. That's just bound to happen at some point.
Maybe
it's already
Boston
happening
Dynamics.
in manufacturing. Yeah, it's already happening in manufacturing. Boeing started doing it when Google Glasses was around, and it reduced manufacturing errors by 2/3 because the technician could literally look down at a sheet of material and see all the cut lines or see diagrams and things like that. So in our industry, especially on the shop side, Brian, I would agree, remote diagnostics is also becoming a huge thing, right? As diagnostics is becoming more and more complicated, we see this huge rise in mobile diagnostic techs, remote diagnostics being in place, and that's absolutely going to be the case soon.
So, Brian, I've been watching this Netflix show called The Resident. If any of you've seen it? Mm-mm. So it's really, really good. I don't think it's super new. There's a lot of seasons, and literally just last night. Do you remember this, Brian? The cardiologist, cardiosurgeon, thoracic surgeon. He was performing surgery, and it came up to me while we were talking about it, because so many times people refer to or compare technicians to doctors, right? It's just the difference of the car or the body. And this surgeon had those goggles on, and in the middle of his surgery, he was using his fingers to widen and look at essentially diagnostics and how the body works, and was able to maneuver in there. And I just thought, I remember last night thinking exactly that, how are shops going to be using this when they're working on a car, and they're, like you were just saying, I think Kelsey is zooming in and looking at or maybe it was Connor, but yeah.
Well, telematics is here, right? They can see, when you throw an engine, the trucking industry has used that for years. They can do self-diagnostics on the road, have parts ordered and delivered to a repair facility prior to it even showing up. in trucking dealers. So, I mean, telematics is going to play a huge part in that. That's if it doesn't get shut down. I don't know if you guys saw a lot of the recent news, but GM and Subaru were getting kind of slapped around. Found out they were selling person-specific data to a company called LexisNexis that was then in turn selling that information to insurance companies. And people were getting dropped. They were getting their insurance canceled just because of these arbitrary driving habits. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens, whether that telematics is anonymous or if it's actually logging who's driving and then being sold and reshared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, data is where the real money is in almost everything now. You know, there are companies out there that they lose money on the product that they build, but they make it all back and many more times on the data. But at the same time, you know, people don't want their data to be shared with everyone like that. So it's, you know, it's something that we're going to talk more and more about over time.
It's like in what is that show? Speaking of Netflix, that movie, The Social Experiment, or is that what it's called? And one of the CEOs on it said, "If the product is free, you are the product."
That's right.
Yeah. So, Carrie-Lynn, since you are, you know, serving as that, basically the chief marketing officer for shops, you look at things, you know, from a larger view in many cases. And I'm curious, from your perspective, how can auto repair shops differentiate themselves in a crowded market through their marketing efforts?
That's a great question. I would say two things. One, make it about the customer. A lot of repair shops and a lot of businesses in general make it all about themselves, but put yourself in your customer's shoes. That's going to be true no matter what kind of AI is involved, no matter what you're doing. Like, the message that you're communicating is going to be so important in making it appeal to your end customer. And again, that sounds like, well, yeah, duh, of course. But start looking at marketing. Look at marketing for dentists. Look at marketing for whatever comes in your mailbox, whatever you see online, whatever ads you get when you're on Facebook, and see which ones are actually getting your attention and solving your problem, and then see which ones are just about that company. And when you start paying attention to that, you'll realize, oh, I'm really way less drawn to that one that just talks about themselves. I'm way more drawn to the one that's trying to solve my problem, right? So people just kind of entering the reality of the world that people care about themselves. That's gonna, you know, that's the thing that really is gonna help people differentiate themselves. And then the other, you know, this almost feels controversial to say because it's so basic, but we keep thinking in terms of like AI and these crazy changes to technology, and they're very, very important to take into account. But the good news about that is people are going to start relying even more and more and more and more on AI and getting further away from their actual customer. And so the more that you as a shop owner can continue to show up and kind of own your community, it's going to be easier because your competition's not going to be doing it. So it feels harder. It's going to be time. But the more you kind of put in that time equity and that like community involvement and that base time, you know, you're just going to win. I mean, marketing, obviously all of us believe in marketing. If you talk to me, I'm like the biggest nerd when it comes to marketing, get way too passionate, and people are like, okay, I'm going to go get a drink now or something because it's just fun to talk about. But the reality is that staying in front of your customers and being involved in your community with things like BNI, chamber, you know, things like that are actually going to continue to be super important. And you're going to have less competition there because people are just going to rely on, oh, AI and the web and things like that. So I would say those two things are going to really help differentiate you.
Yeah, I know. I see Kim over there shaking her head. I know she's agreeing with you. You know, they call her the queen of connections, and Kim, you know, did an amazing job of all of that networking and everything at our auto repair shop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know, it makes our job easier as marketers when the owner or someone from that shop is doing that type of networking, because the chances that when they see the marketing that we're doing hit somebody who's already heard of that business because of their community involvement, it just multiplies the effects of everything that we all do.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
people still crave that connection. And as people get further away from actually connecting with their customers and actually understanding and actually being in front of them, it's like the stage is set for you to walk on and just blow people away just by being present.
Yeah.
yeah. When
Yeah,
it's my
humanizing what
background,
we
it's
do is huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
no. You go ahead.
So humanizing what we do is just really, it's massive, right? People don't come to an auto repair shop on a good day. They're not stopping by just to like find out about brakes for fun. It's not a great day. So anything that we can do to humanize that experience is massive. Even something as simple as just, I'm a huge proponent of like a weekly Facebook Live and really just talking about a whole bunch of nothing, right? Like I tell people, start at your front counter, kind of walk through the shop, just kind of BS for a couple minutes, but it pops up, hey, XYZ repair is live, and it puts a human connection like, hey, work's been crazy this week. How about you? The weather's been really kind of rough. It was pretty hot. Don't ask for anything. And that's one thing I always tell people. Don't ask for anything. Don't talk about a sale. Don't talk about a promotion. Walk by, do a little feature of the new tech because his grandma is going to love it. She's going to send it to her cousin. But it just makes us more human. People are not interacting with us generally when they're having a good time. So the more that we can be personal and set that ahead of the game, and then just those humanized touches, just remind them of the great experience that we've had. I know that we look at shop owner reviews every day as part of what we do, and I'd say probably by and large, most shops, 99% of their reviews are great, right? I mean, how often do we come across a shop that's like less than a 4.5 review rating? It's not very common, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest question is, what are those shop owners doing to capitalize on all that work that they did to get that great review? And it's just those humanized touches and it leads to those connections. And you're right, Carrie-Lynn, not talking about myself, but like talk about the community. Like, hey, this weekend there's a 5K fun run. Who's all going out for that? Well, we'll be there. You don't want to be the person walking around doing the selfie cam at the event because it kind of takes a little wind out of sail, but just talk about it weekly through your shop. And we've seen that been great for shop owners, and it doesn't cost them anything, right? It's free. So
Yeah, I find so often that shop owners are overthinking the marketing. They are, I know how to I know how to turn wrenches. I don't know how to do marketing. And I've told many people, I did not go to school for marketing either. Like that's not my background. I was a teacher and a school counselor, and Brian asked me to come do the marketing, and I literally said, I don't know what that means. And it is, marketing is the human connection. That's exactly what it is. I just taught customer loyalty class, and a big part of it is exactly what both of you were just talking about. And I go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You have to first have your basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, and then the middle level is connection. It's human connection. The Lord made us with that innate desire that you have to have. And so I was recently telling a shop owner exactly that. You're overthinking this. Just go out and connect with people. Just let them get to know who you are, and just take care of them. And the other stuff can come later. Yes, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But so many times they hire a marketing company person or someone in-house, and they do this and they do this, but they forget about all of the other pieces of that, and including that extreme need for human connection. So I love this. My favorite part of the conversation for sure. Kelsey, were you getting ready to say something? 'Cause I feel like
No, I mean, I think everyone's hitting it right on the nail, but it comes down to, like, I always try to make sure that people, like owners, are aware, like, what makes you unique. And I think simple little things like this of like, you are the best communicative auto repair shop in town. Like it can be that simple, but I think they also like shop owners don't define what it is that makes them unique. Their USPs, their unique service propositions to like the community, and that makes marketing so much easier when you understand like how you are different. And again, it becomes this huge thing where like, I have no idea what makes myself unique. I don't know why like people like coming to us, but really when you sit down, like, if you don't know why, then just ask your customer like, why do you love coming to us? And then sure enough, they'll start throwing things. You're like, oh, I guess there are things that we do very well, and those are the things that you can keep like ensuring that like the community is aware that you're the expert in. So yeah, I think that personal touch, especially as we've been talking so much about AI, like yeah, as that goes away, and if, terrific that shops lean into it, but also yeah, like Carrie-Lynn mentioned, like making sure that human element is there. And if that's what's going to make you unique, then you're the only one that has that human element. Like you mentioned, Kim, like people crave that. And so I think it's very important to like have that cohesion and understanding.
So Kelsey, with at Lift Auto Repair Marketing, y'all employ a lot of different tactics to market your clients, and y'all do an amazing job with that. What is one of the most underrated marketing tactics that auto repair shops should pay more attention to?
It cut out there, and I have no idea what the heart of that question was. So I apologize.
No, that's fine. What is the most underrated marketing tactic that auto repair shops should pay more attention to?
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. I heard underrated was the word I missed there, and I heard marketing tactic. And I was like, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to answer this. But perfect. Underrated in terms of, so I think as we talk about this human element, I think one thing that I always try to push and recommend for people to do is make little videos of customers giving reviews, giving a testimonial for yourself. Again, it's a simple little task that you, like as the owner, we can have your advisor do it. They're the ones speaking with customers all the time. But I always tell people, I guarantee that you or an advisor can name at least 5 customers off the top of their head that are amazing customers, that they know like they are huge fans of the shop. No matter what, they love us. They always tell their family about us, their friends about us. And those are the people to just get a quick video on, and like leveraging that video and putting it elsewhere. Because shop owners say all the time, like one of the strongest means of marketing is word of mouth. Like, oh, I have the best word of mouth marketing. But then how do you know who's saying that, who's saying things? And like you can like really just like put that in steroids in a sense of like, yeah, I got it on video, and now I'm blasting it everywhere, and other people get to see it that maybe didn't have that one-on-one conversation with this individual, but now they're sort of seeing that. And so that's one underrated element. I think I
think another one that gets quite often overlooked is consistency, because they'll do a video, but they'll only do one, or maybe they do 2, and then 6 months goes by and they haven't done another one, or they don't.
They're like, marketing doesn't work. Yeah,
exactly. Or I was going to say, Carrie-Lynn, you'll implement a tactic for them. Like, here's what we're going to do. Here's your calendar. And they stick with it for 30 days. And then the same thing, it's not working. It's like, you got to give it time. You got to give it consistency.
Gosh, don't you guys wish that we could change the rules of marketing? Like that we could just bend reality and be like, yes, come to me and we will get everything going. Like your phones will start ringing tomorrow, about this time tomorrow. Yep, we got it. Like we could do everything under the sun, or a marketing like a shop owner who's a marketing genius could do everything under the sun. But it just takes time. And, the shops that understand that and have the wisdom and knowledge and patience to play the longer game, those are the shops that win. So just like owning a business, it just takes time.
Well, yeah, there's those shop owners. Well, it's those shop owners that are able to measure those results over a long distance. I think that makes that important too, because then they can see those trends right there in there every day. So it can be a little difficult to see the forest for the trees. So looking at what's trending up and down and like, does that make sense? The best shop owners that we've seen are those ones that make appointments with themselves, right? Every Tuesday at 3:00 they're in the office and this is what they're looking at, right? Those aren't the ones that miss meeting times. Those are the ones that stick to those plans because they set that appointment with themselves. And I'm a huge proponent of that because I'm like Captain ADD, but in my shop, I had to do that. But what I found is as I did that, when problems would pop up, your spidey senses would do it because you've been consistent elsewhere. So that's super key to that as well. And on the topic of underutilized, one thing that we've seen been really successful lately that a lot of people miss is picking up the phone call. Picking up the phone as part of your retention marketing. Like, I can send you a postcard, I can shoot you an email and a text message, but what shows that I care more than I pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, I know it's been a few weeks since we recommended that those brakes be done. Do you want to get in and get that done? That's huge, right? It's that personal touch that software can't do, AI can't do, but it shows that I care is massive.
Yep, that's the
I think as we
beautiful.
lean into, and we were talking about this earlier, with AI, just the automations of everything, just that personal touch, like how valuable that's going to be. Because when it comes down to it, I mean, near me, there's 10 different places to go get my brakes done, right? But I'm going to consistently go back to that same shop if it's the experience that I'm kind of expecting or looking for. And that's what's going to hook me and get me to continue to come back. So if it's little things, at our class at STX, we kind of went around the room and said, what do you do to differentiate yourself after the service? And it was, fresh cookies in the car from a local bakery. It was, we washed their car, right? They're not getting that anywhere else. It's just a transaction, but it's like, why do I want to come back? And we even paralleled it to the big grocery chains, right? Like Publix is from Florida. They opened in Raleigh like 2 years ago, and there was like 300 people in line to go to a grocery store. So look, and Kim, I think you're hitting on this, like look at these other industries' best practices and what are they doing? Because it's a grocery store. You can go anywhere and buy bread, but I want to go to Publix to buy bread because of XYZ.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
You asked what's the most underrated. I would say what is the most overrated marketing tactic? And Kelsey kind of talked about it a little bit, word of mouth. Now, again, people are going to be like pitchforks, because word of mouth is the best. Hands down, it's the best marketing, but it is the most over assumed, I guess, like people over depended on. It's the one area that you have very little control on. And if you think about, like, if you guys heard me talk before, you've probably heard me talk about plumbers. So if you think about a plumber, like, it's so easy for us to think, of course, people are going to be out talking about us. But if you think about a plumber, we've all used a plumber, but we're not talking about our plumber and the experience we had with the plumber at our house very often, right? Even if they're the best plumber, it's just, we are busy. We have so many things going on. We have very little mental space. We are like trying to talk about the things that we have to talk about as the phone is ringing and our kids are screaming or whatever. Everyone has a lot going on. And so I was at a conference recently and someone was saying all of us get our, every shop here is an awesome shop. So every shop here, their number one marketing source is referrals. So how do we do more of that? And I think, like video is super helpful in getting the message out that these people, a real person, had this great experience. And now you can see and hear their experience. But I think that it's over dependent on that. People just assume that everyone's out talking about us, about their auto repair experience, or talking about the brake job that they got. And it's like, the reality is no,
Unless
they're
it's
not.
bad.
What?
Yeah.
Unless it's bad.
Unless it's bad. And it's unfair and it shouldn't be that way. But like something we say at Turnkey Marketing all the time is reality is our friend, and let's embrace reality and then play within the confines of it. So if we know that we're not talking about our dentist on the day to day, we're not talking about our plumber or electrician or roofer all the time, people are probably not talking about their auto repair shop all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks because you can be the best in the world. But if you know that that's the reality, then you know that you have to do other marketing, be present, do all the different like omni-channel marketings and not depend solely on referrals, because it's not going to get you, if you're trying to grow quickly or, grow to a great scale, it's probably not going to get you there because you can't control that. Sorry.
Well, y'all, this has been awesome. I want to go around and just let everybody kind of have a last word. Any, piece of advice that you have, for shop owners, or, whatever it might be. And I'm going to go backwards this time. So we'll start with Kelsey. Kelsey, last word.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone had absolutely amazing, great glasses, Carrie. Everyone had absolutely amazing insights and topics. And again, thank you, Brian and Kim, for coming up with this idea for having us all come together. But in terms of, I think, not being afraid to diversify your marketing. I think that's what we kind of come to that conclusion of don't just pigeonhole one exact thing. And yes, if it's working, you can put a little bit more weight on it, but it doesn't mean to ignore all other forms and channels of marketing, because not everyone is going to view that marketing the same way. And so it's really important to diversify.
Awesome. Kim?
Oh, I get a last word? My last word, I wasn't prepared for that. I just really want to say, I think it's, again, so great that we're just all together and can have this conversation. I appreciate your friendship in the industry. When we were shop owners, none of this existed, even though AutoShop Solutions literally started right around the corner from our shop. We could have walked there. So we knew Danny, and we closed our shop just as you guys were opening up. And then when we re-engaged in the industry, we were like, who are these Kukui Hawaiian? Like, what is that? Like, we had no idea. So I think it's just really awesome to be here with all of y'all. And I think that we should do it again. That's not the last word you were looking for, Brian, but is what you got.
No, and for those who are listening, if you were wondering, why your favorite marketer isn't here, we did invite other people, but just finding a day where it worked for every single person, it wasn't in the cards. But we definitely appreciate all of y'all making it here today. Connor, last word.
I guess my last word would be, don't fear change. Just because it's worked doesn't mean that there's not a better option out there. Reevaluate, constantly reevaluate. That's, reinvent yourself. It's a journey I've been through, going from running shops to now on this end, just like Brian and Kim went from shop owners to working in the marketing world. Is don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. Just because this is who your identity is in your community doesn't mean it can't change. And, just try to keep your eyes on the horizon and look at all your programs, reevaluate every 6 months or every year, and then hold who you work with accountable. But, make sure that, you're looking at, maybe I work with this company here and work about putting these pieces together. And there's a lot of resources out there to kind of help steer if you're not sure. But constantly reevaluate. I've always been a proponent of change or die. And that's just a huge thing. So just keep looking at the horizon and reevaluate what you're doing.
Awesome. Carrie-Lynn.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having us. It is so cool to have industry friends, and just to know that, like, even if every single person listening tried to work with me or tried to work with Kukui, we probably couldn't service every single person. Just like every repair shop, if every person in their town went to them, they wouldn't be able to handle it. So it's incredible that we all are so passionate about helping our industry, and that we can get together and think, like, how can we help even better? How can we, all of us alone could not help our industry, could not service our industry. So it's great that we're all here. Thank you for this opportunity. I would say my last word of wisdom would be, to just get really obsessed with your customer and figuring out what they care about. And then, don't lean on, well, they should care about this, and this is more important. Just get down to what they care about and then help connect the dots for them, and do that in every channel of your marketing. Get involved in multiple channels, lots of different channels of marketing, and then connect with your customer about what they care about and what they need right now. And then to test things, try something, give it time. And if it doesn't work, or you make a mistake, or you feel silly, or you sound silly, or you say the wrong thing, okay, then you're human. And at least you're trying something and you're learning what's working and what's not working. So test, track the, results, and then iterate.
Awesome. Love that. Tony, last word.
I'll bring us home. Thanks again for having us. This was great. I looked at the clock and I didn't even realize how fast time flies when you're having fun. My biggest thing, closing words, don't wait to get started. Take action. Marketing is not a light switch. If you're slow next week and you call any one of us, your phones aren't going to be ringing the next day, right? Start today, start having those conversations, make the decision, and it will pay dividends in the future. But just remember, patience and consistency is key to marketing. And if you wait, it's not going to work.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again for being here. Thank you to all of our listeners for listening in. And, over the last 100 episodes for all of the listening that you've done, all of the feedback that you've given us. We cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you again to our sponsor, Repair Pal. Without them, we couldn't do this. And again, we are just one of many episodes or in many podcasts, I should say, on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find the others at aftermarketradionetwork.com. We hope you'll listen in again next week. And until then, go fill those bays.